Ryu turned to him, his face pale. "Are you serious?" Rich nodded. "Hell yeah, this is way better than a normal boot camp. We get dropped into the middle of nowhere, no rules, no drills, just pure survival. I mean, come on, how many people get to say they went through this?" Ryu inhaled sharply, still struggling to wrap his head around it. But then, Rich was still smiling, still confident, still ready, and something about that made Ryu's own nerves settle, just a little. Maybe Rich was crazy. Maybe he didn't understand how bad this could get. But his attitude, his sheer belief that he could handle whatever was coming, was infectious. For the first time, Ryu felt himself stand a little straighter. Maybe he could handle this. Maybe he would make it. Because ready or not, the jungle awaited. And the only way out was through. The jungle stood before them, its thick, gnarled trees stretching like skeletal fingers into the night sky. The last remnants of daylight faded, and as if on cue, a rolling fog slithered in from the depths of the jungle, swallowing the first few meters of trees in an instant. It was thick, unnatural, almost sentient in the way it curled through the air, creeping toward the recruits like a living thing. The drill instructor, standing just before the threshold, didn't even acknowledge it. His voice was calm, controlled, cutting through the tense silence. "Tonight, your mission is simple." He gestured toward the jungle, toward the fog that had already begun to obscure the tree line. "You will make it 100 meters into that jungle. You see that tree over there?" He pointed, but the recruits couldn't see a damn thing anymore. Just the thick white haze curling and shifting before them. The one with its branches spread wide, like it's waiting to give you all a big, fat hug. That's where you need to go. Get there, wrap your arms around it, and we'll let you come back. If you can't, he let the words hang, his smirk widening, "we'll tell your mama you did your best." The recruits stood motionless, tension thick in the air. The instructor gave them a final glance. Then stepping back, he nodded toward the tree line. "Move." One by one, the recruits stepped forward, swallowed by the fog the moment they crossed the line. Rich went in with a grin. Ryu, still hesitating, clenched his fists before following. The world changed instantly. The moment they entered, everything behind them, camp, the instructor, the distant lights, was gone. The fog was a wall, thick and suffocating. It clung to their skin like damp cloth, muffling sound, distorting distance. The air smelled of wet earth and stagnant water. The jungle ground beneath their feet was no longer firm. It had turned into a soupy, uneven mess of mud and shallow water. With every step, their boots sank, sucking against the earth with a sickening slurp. At first, the sound of sloshing water around them was reassuring. It meant they weren't alone. Other recruits were making their way forward, just as blind as they were. The rhythmic splashes were their only markers of movement, guiding them like an unspoken language. But then there were other splashes, further away, deeper. They came irregularly, dull and heavy, not human. Ryu froze. He wasn't the only one. Somewhere ahead, a recruit let out a hushed, trembling whisper. "Did you hear that?" No one answered. Another splash. This one was closer. Ryu's pulse hammered in his ears. He turned his head instinctively, but the fog was impenetrable. He couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. Then, for a brief moment, the fog shifted. The air cleared just enough to reveal a patch of jungle. The tree branches swayed in the stillness, tangled and wild. He saw figures, silhouettes of other recruits moving through the mist. Some were facing the wrong way, stumbling sideways instead of forward, completely turned around. Then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the fog sealed itself again, swallowing them whole. Ryu swallowed down his panic and forced himself forward. Another splash. Then a scream. It wasn't far. The sound sent a shockwave through the recruits. Some of them froze, some moved faster. A few called out only to be shushed by others. Ryu's breath hitched, and he kept walking, 1 foot at a time, his boots sinking into the muck. Keep going, just keep going. The fog broke again, briefly. He saw the tree, or at least he thought he did. It was still far, too far. Another step. The fog closed back in. Now he wasn't even sure if he was still walking in the right direction. The fog pressed in, suffocating and thick. Ryu could barely see his own hands in front of him. Every step felt uncertain, his boots sucked into the swampy muck beneath him. The splashes, the ones close by, the ones far away, played tricks on his mind. Then came another scream, this time distant, barely a whisper through the mist. Someone was lost. Someone was panicking. That was it. Ryu, usually the silent type, clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and yelled, "Everybody, come to my voice. Stay together. Come to my voice. Stay together. We can beat this together." The sound of his own voice was strange, louder than he had ever made it before, echoing into the void. For a second, he wasn't sure if anyone had heard him. Then, to his left, a figure moved. Another splash. Then another. They were coming toward him. Rich, standing just a few feet away, grinned as if Ryu had just interrupted his favorite movie. "SHHH," he whispered dramatically. "I'm having fun. You're gonna make this too easy." Ryu let out an exhausted laugh. Of course, Rich would enjoy this. He turned back to the void. "Everybody, please, come together." And this time they did. The sounds of trudging feet, of hesitant splashes, of nervous breathing began to merge around him. One by one, the recruits came toward his voice, forming a loose circle in the mist. The fog still blinded them, but at least they weren't alone anymore. Ryu took a steadying breath. Then he called out again. "When you see the tree, and you know you see the tree, yell, so we all go in the right direction. We go together. We make IT together." The men murmured their agreement, and then they waited. For the next opening in the fog. For the next break in the abyss that surrounded them. For their chance to find the tree together. The men stood still, tense, waiting for the fog to break again. The jungle around them was quiet, too quiet. The only sounds were the occasional shifting of bodies, the nervous shuffling of boots sinking into the swampy ground, and the distant splashes, some familiar, some not. Ryu took a slow breath and dropped low. The water was cold and murky, rising just past his knees. His hands hovered over the surface, his fingers barely grazing the stillness beneath. He focused, watched, waited. Everything above the waist was blind in the fog, but down here, he could see. The fog wasn't as thick near the water. The path ahead, obscured from those standing tall, was visible if you crouched low enough. It wasn't perfect. Shadows and shifting mist still played tricks on the eye. But the tree, their goal, was there. The others didn't see it yet. Then a shout. "It's this way, this way." A few recruits further out had caught a glimpse of the tree as the fog parted for a moment. They ran forward, only for the fog to roll back in, sealing their vision shut once more. Shit, where'd it go? They stumbled blindly, their direction lost. Some cursed. Others stopped moving entirely, afraid they'd wander in the wrong direction. But Ryu, he was still watching. Low to the ground, he saw the path. "Follow me," he called, his voice steady but firm. Some of the men hesitated. They couldn't see what he saw, and when men are afraid, when they don't trust what they can't see, doubt turns into fear. "You sure, man?" one of them asked. "I don't see anything." Rich, standing at the edge of the group, let out a loud, exaggerated sigh. "All right, listen up, dumbasses," he said, his voice dripping with playful impatience. "We got two choices. We either follow